Welcome back, MTG Joe here, and we're going to be doing another weekly meta breakdown. Again, apologies for the audio and video. Similar to last week, I am in the middle of a move, so I am working on a potato of a laptop while my PC is boxed up in storage. But just trying to get this out in a regular format. What we are going to be doing going forward is splitting between historic and standard videos, and eventually get Alchemy up in the next couple of weeks once I get those stats from the Untapped GG folks. Speaking of Untapped GG, it is a companion tool that runs alongside Arena and tracks all your kind of game statuses, win rates, stuff like that. It is free to use, a very useful tool. If you want to get more information on it, it is in the link in the video description down below. And they are feeding all this data. So what we're going to be looking at today is historic best of 1 and best of 3. From Platinum to Mythic rank for the week of November 28th to December 5th. We'll start off with best of 1. 60,000 matches were played in this week that were tracked with the tool. And the number 1 deck is Rakdos Arcanist. So kind of a grindy deck, graveyard focused. Really what you're trying to do is put cards into your graveyard and flash them back with Rakdos Arcanist, escape Croxa. You can fuel your graveyard with things like Stitcher Supplier or Dragon's Rage Chandler, as well as having the Delirium package, making this a 3/3 flyer. You have artifacts to kind of fuel in with like Bomat Courier, a Soul Guide Lantern. You're drawing cards with like Village Rites and kind of killing your opponent that particular way there. We have 2 versions and variants of the Squirrel Twin combo. This is the Scurry Oak, Heliod, and anything that gains life when it enters a battlefield creature, so any of these Soul Warden style effects. Basically, it creates an infinite loop where you gain life, you put a counter on Scurry Oak with Heliod, that creates a squirrel that gains you life, they puts a counter, and then you rinse and repeat, and you kind of kill your opponent that particular way there. The only difference between these lists looks to be the mana base between the two, but it's kind of a combo kill with a backup plan of these Voice of the Blessed and Trelasara as just big beaters as well. We have a sorry about that. Come on. Stupid touchscreen. Azoria's Aura is just kind of the go tried and true. You're just putting stuff on Core Spirit Dancer and smashing in. Just kind of a way to attack the opponent in that particular way. We see another Rakdos Arcanist, just a little bit more tighter of a version. Not as many different creature types, and it's just kind of all in on the graveyard focus. The other version had Young Pyromancer, which allows you to deal with some of the graveyard hate and kind of go wide in that particular way. There's Mono Red Agro, which is a couple different flavors, but the core of this deck is you have the Reckless Ringleader, which can give haste to stuff like Annex, Bone Crusher, Chain Whirler into Embercleave, as well as ways of having Roiling Vortex. So I've been playing a variation of this deck, and I think right now it's pretty well suited. I'm on actually 4 Rampaging Ferocidons, 4 Roiling Vortex. There was a lot of the Squirrel Twin combo when I was playing a couple days ago, and this just shuts off that kind of interaction. Without them gaining life, the creatures are really bad. They're kind of whole synergies. They're gaining life, they're putting counters, they're making things big, they're making infinite tokens, and that kind of shuts things off. So kind of the way I'm playing the deck, just seeing how it goes. You see some elves, just kind of the... Elves is always in the periphery. It's kind of the combo creature deck that plays into Craterhoof Behemoth. 5-color Niv. It's a deck that has some powerful gameplay, but I personally just don't like a deck that's so reliant on mana without like great fixing. You have a lot of come into play tap lands, painful lands, stuff like that. In some games you're just going to lose because you have 4 of the 5 colors, or you need a Clarion on 3, but you have every color other than one of the colors there. We see Jun's Sacrifice. Now, with the Sacrifice list, you're going to get variations. You'll have the Citadel version, you'll have the Corvold version, you'll have the Food version, you'll have the green-black Luris version. This particular one is the Corvold Food version, so this is kind of the grindier, go-long version with accruing card advantage and kind of grinding out your opponent. This deck's usually pretty good against creature decks, but does struggle against kind of all-in combo decks. Mono Red Madness, just kind of a favorite deck that always shows up on these, usually holds around the 50 to 55-ish win rate, so it's around there. Just kind of discarding with purpose and kind of fueling your graveyard, getting card advantage in that regard. You have the 5-color Dragonstorm combo, which is basically creating an infinite loop of Bladewing the Risens, coming into play, legend ruling themselves to go to the graveyard, and then combo killing your opponent with Terror of the Peaks. This is achieved through either like Mizzix Mastering back a Dragonstorm, or casting Emergent Ultimatum from your graveyard with Mastery, or Scholar of the Lost Troves, or like a Burial Rising Scholar to kind of pop it off. It's kind of all in, combo kill your opponent. And then finally we see a Izzet Phoenix list in best of one. This is one that's kind of always on the periphery. It's favorite deck. It's very powerful in best of three. From the weekend tournament, we're seeing a lot of the top decks. Just want to see if anything interesting when we just lowered match counts. We have Affinity, which is, it's a decent deck. I found it pretty easy to handle if you have a decent amount of removal, because again, their threats are individually pretty weak, but they get a lot of value when all things kind of come together. We see like the Citadel version of Jund, the 9 Lives Enchantress, Angels kind of hanging around there. Just seeing if got humans. Yeah, so nothing groundbreaking. The Goblins deck's pretty fun. As always with Goblins, you're either going to win spectacularly, I find, or just lose when your Muxus hits a 1/1 for 6 mana. But popping into best of 3 historic, and the top deck of the week is Golgari Sacrifice. So this is the green-black version of the Sacrifice deck. It's kind of really nickeling and diming your opponent. You're not going to win in one turn, but you're going to slowly death by 1,000 cuts, and you're doing this with like Cat Oven. This is really a Cat Oven deck. Cat Oven, grinding them out, Meat Hook Massacre as a board wipe that can also drain, and then this is kind of the Turbo Squirrel deck, make your squirrel really, really big, and just lots of grindy elements in this particular deck. This one's looked really good on camera at the weekend championship, and has a really good Phoenix matchup. So if you're losing a Phoenix and you want someone to take them out, it is a good deck. There's a lot of clicking in this deck. There's a lot of like minute decision points. So if you're looking for a casual deck just to play on mobile, or just, you know, while you're watching TV or something, maybe not the best deck. It's a big brain deck, but it is one that takes a lot. Humans, we're seeing a bit of that come in. Similar to like the standard version of Mono White, there's the taxing elements, but we get the bonus of like Esper Sentinel, the Thalia's Lieutenant to buff the team, and then Collected Company to tie it all together at instant speed. You have Ranger Captain of Eos, which can kind of serve as a toolbox for your 1-drops as well. Best of 3 Rakdos Arcanist, similar idea to the best of 1, just you get your sideboard options. And then what we're seeing is an Azoria's control list that we saw last week. It is a Strict Proctor, Stifle, Lotus Field deck, just to get ahead on mana. And then you're generally winning with Approach of the Second Sun as your primary win condition. Or this, I feel like this is a deck you hard cast Shark a lot. You make a big Shark at instant speed, but I feel it's like a hard cast Shark meta. Squirrel combo that we saw, 5-color Niv that we saw. We have a version of Gruel Aggro. This is kind of the Lord of the Ground, more traditional. This looks like a Gruel list that was pulled from like a year and a half ago. You have your Ferocidon's main, your Coco, getting the addition of a Tarkus Command as a flexible spell to kind of turn off life gain if you're dealing with Squirrel combo, deal extra damage, or Anthem your team. So completely off Embercleave, which is interesting. Just low to the ground aggro in this particular case. We see the Affinity Decks. Interestingly enough, we see the Izzet Phoenix list here at 44%. What I've seen from the weekend Innistrad Championship is a lot of them are going on Crackling Drake. It's a way to get over these food decks, just hit for large chunks of damage, and doesn't let you fall as all in on the graveyard hate. If opponent plays Rest in Peace, this deck's usually pretty bad. That kind of gets around there. And it also, the Ashmouth Dragons, like I played a lot of this in best of 1. It's pretty easily interactable. Pretty much every kill spell kills it, so it's an effect that the Crackling Drake, although 4 mana, is not as much of an investment, replaces itself on entering, and in a turn can just kill your opponent fairly quickly. The last deck I wanted to kind of show, this was a deck that really jumped out to me. So this is the one that looks like the Channel Fireball team. So we have Scott Vargas, we have Huey Jensen, Gabriel Nassif. They played a variation of this at the the Innistrad Champions. And it is kind of a Rakdos Arcanist deck, but it's not all in on the graveyard. And it's kind of a bigger mid-range grindy version. So it's really interesting. It caught my eye. So you're playing like Seasoned Pyromancer as a way to churn through your deck. 8 discard effects in Inquisition and Thoughtseize. You have your Unholy Heats. Interesting enough, like they opted for more Sorens than Chandras in playtesting this, and it's just kind of a grindy value plan. You have the option like post-board to even go into Legion War Boss, and just very interesting deck. Saw it on camera, looked really good. Actually, I'm curious is that question. Why Legion War Boss? And that's the best answer. Got to show your opponent who's boss. But this is a deck that's really sweet. Got this from Magic Esports if you want to import it in. But this is something I'm going to try out to try to ladder up this season with. These are usually the kind of decks I like to play. Grindy, card advantage style decks. But that's historic for the week. As mentioned, we will be back next week for the next installment. And as soon as I can get any data on Alchemy, the new arena format, I will post a list of top decks for kind of week 1, day 1, whatever it may be in terms of our time frame, so you can start getting ahead in that format as well. As always, appreciate the support. If you can, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And we will catch you next time. Apologies again for the audio quality. As soon as I can get back up and running with my PC, we will. Take it easy. Stay safe out there.